Hey everyone, I'm Andrew. I'll be your host with Kimetha today.
Hey,
We're here,
everybody.
and we are here to talk about life and tech. And today specifically, I think we're going to talk about AI. Some of the things we learned recently at the NVIDIA conference, I believe that was what it was. And Kimetha has a lot to share with us about the eras of AI, what we're working on today, the new present tech going on that's changing our lives every day.
Absolutely. So, where should we get started? What's our first question? Will AI take over our work, huh?
Yeah, let's talk about a little bit of what did you see at the conference? That's we have AI, right? We deal with Chat GPT and Claude. Just got a huge implementation of money from Amazon. I want to say it was, and then everything's kind of racing. But I know that AI has so much going on behind just the format email daily usage that we all see. What were you seeing at NVIDIA that really stood out to you?
Absolutely. So, hopefully, some of you can relate to this. If any of you are Star Trek fans like I am, I like Star Wars too, but I love Star Trek. And I think that's the world that we are living in. So, we're kind of walking into it, but it's already there. And here is what I mean. You guys remember on Star Trek when they're like, beam me up, and they click the little button. We now have Apple pens, right? Or the new pens that they have for that. Another example on Star Trek, they would be like, computer, tell me about this or show me this angle so they can solve a solution, a problem, an engineering problem, something like that. Well, guess what we have now in 2024? Not only do we have Alexa, right? Not only do we have Hey Google that my 7-year-old can use almost better than me, but now we have the co-pilots at Microsoft. We have the NVIDIA AI infrastructure that they've created to build these new algorithms and these multimodal is what they call them. Multimodal, I think it's a phenomenon, but these things that they're building, and I what really stood out to me is we are already here. The technology is already here. It's not really about what am I going to do in 5 years or what can I do to make sure it doesn't take my job. It's already here. And what Nvidia did at the conference is it visually showed you. And for example, how many of us have heard of like the digital world or the metaverse and our world becoming digital? Well, guess what? They have something called digital twins and they have something called an Earth 2.0, which is a replica of the actual Earth that we live in. But the beauty of it is they get to practice um, scenarios, for example. So, say that there's a weather pattern. We have the eclipse coming up, right, in a couple of days. I'm conspiracy theorist city, so I listen to every TikTok
Uh-huh.
about the change and the break and the crust and the plates and all that stuff. And what I really appreciate about technology and what's happening and what NVIDIA introduced me to is this digital twin phenomenon allows you to take real world scenarios, including the earth itself, put it in a digital format, and then practice scenarios so you can have the best case scenario. So instead of us planting something and hoping that it works in real life in an Africa
Mhm.
country somewhere, we can do it in our Earth 2.0, really with our computer power, be able to create a simulation. Back to Star Trek, am I right?
Yeah,
Right?
right? Yeah.
And
No, that's
create
pretty
a
cool. I
simulation
mean,
to
that's
be able to do these things, and it's amazing.
yeah, that's incredible. I mean, first of all, did Earth 2.0, did we survive the eclipse? Are we all good on that? Do you know? Did we hear anything? Has
No,
TechCrunch come out?
but they can actually create the scenario and say, okay, the tectonic plates are about to leave or about to separate, and half of the world is going to flood. What can we do to create a scenario that most of the people still stay alive? And
Right.
now you have a plan, hopefully in advance,
Hmm.
where we can escape those things and hopefully elevate and elongate our race and how long we have on this wonderful earth of ours. But
That
anyway,
is
don't get me started. I'm sorry, I'm being nerdy, but it was
no,
so
you're good.
exciting. I couldn't believe it. It's
I
crazy.
love that. So we just jump out of the gate with like the big picture aspect of just let's just start with like the scenarios of our digital surrogacy, saving the human race, and it is really fascinating to think about. I mean, I don't know if it's moving so fast, and even stuff like AI assistants, that they're putting into augmented reality, which I think has been the idea of augmented reality has been around, and we've been testing it, and we have like the metaverse and things like that too, and it hasn't really grasped on. But I feel like with AI assistants that this augmented reality are really is really going to help us in our daily lives. I think so quickly, quicker than we know, it's going to just be part of how we operate. In a world, in our daily tasks, in our grocery shopping, and our connecting with people. Did you see anything? What were the more amazing things that came up? As far as like your daily tasks and AI, what are you seeing out there that is fascinating?
Yeah, so I mean, you name it. So, and this is probably going to bleed into the, hey, is AI going to take my job? Here's what's crazy about it all. AI is smart. Is it smarter than humans? Possibly, depending on the context, right? You need more information to really define and determine that. But on a fundamental level, it can um, remember more information. We have it. We just, we don't always remember. So, what's really fascinating about that is they have things like little computers to be able to help our kids, like legit little computers with rollers that walk around with your kid, ask them questions to make them think on a more creative level, just things like that that we aren't thinking about. So they're going into the school system. And if you think about augmented reality, I have kids under 7, so I'm always doing something kid related. We were at Dave and Buster's the other day. How many of us have done one of those games where you put the glasses on?
Right?
They're
Yeah.
fun, and I think our kids are easily gonna get into the augmented world, and they'll probably start or be introduced to it in a classroom environment. I'm pretty sure it's gonna take over once they find the clearance, because I think you can't have those Oculus type of things on your head until you're, like, 12. Something with the brain. Um, um, the people who are listening to that, you guys Google that and let us know what
Right.
you
Yeah.
find. There are some things there with being able to do this virtual reality and something with the cognitive dissonance and what happens with your brain that they're saying, okay, only 12-year-olds can do it. But do you remember what Andrew, was it 5 years ago when they're saying don't have more than 2 hours of screen time, and then COVID happened and we haven't heard that research since. So
No, no, because what else were we supposed to do, right? We binge watched everything, and we were addicted to our phones. That was our outside world. It was we couldn't
made
connect
Netflix
with
rich.
people. Oh,
Absolutely.
oh, yeah, more, yeah. We did our share. We did our share over there.
Yeah.
It is really fascinating, and thinking about like we were talking about education, for example, and is how is AI going to affect our education, and is it going to take the jobs of teachers, and but and we kind of touched on this a little bit before, but how as far as AI, what is our job curating AI or the information, like as far as being an educator, the curriculum, and also, I mean, again, with talking about COVID and all of that, having AI companionship for social skills for children, or for elderly who are living on their own, and how the relationship we have with our phone already, right? We already have these emotional impulses. I mean, it's only going to be even more, and our connection with screen time, our connection with the digital world is just going to grow stronger. I mean, I can already see, our daily digital rebellion where we're just leaving Oculus on. We're like, yeah, I mean, I could wake up, or I could wake up in this like virtual world by the beach, and I'm listening to seagulls. Like that's a whole lot better, than my one bedroom apartment where I'm hearing like sirens go off, or maybe I have a job where I have to wake up before the sun comes up. How long? I mean, I can't imagine it would take that long before people are saying, well, it improves the way, my daily life. And I've just decided to do that. And I mean, the increase of technology and just human behavior, it just seems that we're just skyrocketing, tethering ourselves to this kind of AI. And of course, the question is, is it going to take our jobs? Is it going to replace us? Is it, we're already we're already taking remedial daily tasks, right, and simplifying them by using, just very uh, on the surface, AI, emails, quick text responses, that kind of stuff. I use it for affinity mapping, thematic analyses, things that used to take hours, used to take a number of people. Now it just takes moments, after figuring out the correct prompt and figuring out where the data is coming from and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, it just carves just hours and hours and hours off my day. So, is what do you think the future of business looks like in daily activities, that kind of stuff with AI? Do you think, are we going to be are we going to be hitting this kind of cut down on employment because they're saying, well, we can save money by having this, or do you think that, as technology progresses, and which we've seen in the past, that our jobs will always, also progress? We will be the curators of this digital field, instead of just saying, okay, well, we can just put post-it notes on a board and come up with this. you know what do you think about
Yeah. I think that the currency has changed, and what I mean by that is it's not about, I'm gonna use the word smart in the actual definition of being a person of knowledge who knows things. It won't our new world isn't necessarily about how smart you are. It is more so about, are you able to think in a way where you can get results or where you can solve a problem. So we don't need to know the information. We have artificial intelligence for that. But can you ask the question in such a way that you get the proper result, or you get the response that's most valuable for your audience? And that is where the value is going to come in. So will AI take some jobs, task related jobs? Yeah. So bookkeepers, not saying it's going to take your job, but you should absolutely be thinking about some ways to reskill yourself. Bankers, not bankers, but like tellers, those type of jobs where you're inputting numbers, cashiers, like those type of positions. Yeah, warehouse employees, you want to think about some other options. Now, you'll still be needed because we need someone there to either control the either machines or the large language models that control the machines, or your job will change and you'll have to literally be talking to the machines. But there's something to consider. Like, let's be honest, there's something to consider with some jobs. Now, in the design world, now keep in mind, I was a design researcher, but now I am a generative AI researcher or whatever,
Yeah,
right?
good pivot, excellent
Yeah,
pivot.
right. And here's what's changed for my job as a researcher. Before, you would have to look at all those videos over and over and read all of the transcripts and transpose everything into the Excel yourself. Well, now I can tell the technology to do it for me. I can tell the technology to find 10 different insights that may be valuable for me. And that is okay to do. That's a beautiful part about it. But you still need a human to be able to interpret human things such as behaviors, or things such as those non-tangibles. You know how you can look at someone and see what's going on without them saying anything? Those are the type of things that AI hasn't, um, it hasn't even discovered part of those things yet. But NVIDIA has created a platform, just like Azure has a platform for a lot of task management for businesses. NVIDIA has created a platform for us to build our AI algorithms in such a way that we can have more complex neurons kind of linking in, just like the human brain. And as a result, it will be able to now answer more. It'll be able to not feel, but synthetically understand our emotions, or maybe understand that a pin drops. It can't understand that a pin, when it drops, it doesn't go through the floor, but it does understand that a pin drops. And now our job now is to teach it that when a pin drops, it drops on the floor. If it was water, then maybe it'll go through the water. And just like a kid, think about it, as teaching a kid. So that's the new currency and the new value is, you have to be able to teach and you have to be able to talk. And I want to ask you the same thing, Andrew, because you're in that space. Like, you are teaching and every day, and you understand the importance of the human capital and the human connection. Um, and you kind of see AI kind of getting into the education world. So first, how do you use it? But second, what are your thoughts?
Well,
As a professor in your field and things like that.
right. I think a lot of it has to do with, how do you qualify the quality of your output, right? How do you know that what you're getting is quality, right? If I go, oh, give me you know, um, a book report on Tom Sawyer or something like that, right? I could submit that, right? And I tell my students this, and I tell my juniors this too. I was like, your name is going to be put on this. So I would say, use your resources as much as you can, but make sure you're validating this as well. I need you to be the to validate the content of this, you know, AI output. So I can teach you what a thematic analysis is, what you're looking for. I can tell you what it should look like. But if you're just going to plug something in, some prompt, and then hand it off, that's not the problem solving, right? There, and that's not requiring anybody to replace any jobs, because you still have to know what you're looking for. And I was thinking about that too, as far as book reports. Something book. When we're in school and read a book, right? All that kind of stuff. And this is back when we used card catalogs, which we don't really do that anymore. Um, but I was thinking about educators, and it was always, well, I knew that the I was judging the quality of the education by validating the output, and for them, the output was the book report. Well, maybe that's just too far right now. Maybe we need to take this back in a step, say, okay, well, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create an outline. We need to validate that outline. Use AI, use your research, right? Put together an outline. Now, as a student, look at this outline. Does this make sense to you? What works? What doesn't work? What do you need to change in your prompt to get something that's more linear, or something maybe that is more factual, or we're putting a nuance in this? We're doing a critical analysis in this book, versus, political issues in current America or something like that. Does this outline make sense? If that works, let's take it to the next step. And then we're going to validate step by step. And that way we can judge that, this output is saying, okay, the education is there, that they're learning something. And I think that the same thing happens with, working in the field, where, yeah, we might use it for something like, affinity mapping or things like that. But unless you know what what you should be outputting, what the value is, it doesn't have, it might not have any value, right? Like, you have to know, as a problem solver, as a professional, you have to know what you're going to hand off. Like, what is the value of these reports? Otherwise, it's just, busy work and you're not learning anything. So, um, yeah, I think that that's the big thing with AI, and people are really scared, but we always have to be moving forward, right? Like, um, with calculators, when we were growing up, when I was growing up, it was always like, oh, you're not going to have a calculator on you forever, but now you do. And education has changed in that fact, right? So, and even stuff like memorizing formulas, where when I was in, high school, we would have to memorize everything. And they're like, well, now we're going to teach you how to find these things. And I think with AI, as it's constantly, and disclaimer, we should say, like, as of today, AI cannot do whatever, but it's growing so fast that it could very well be in a week. They're like, oh, by the way, now it fully recognizes, facial features and can have a full on human interaction with you. It does go
Yeah.
very, very fast.
And it's funny that you say that, because I'm going to give a quick analogy. So at Microsoft, we are AI. Okay, we are coining, or let me not say that. Scratch. Microsoft does everything with AI though. Our entire platform and ecosystem has what we call Copilot, which is an AI large language model that allows you to work quicker. You guys have seen the commercials and things like that. So you can see AI in everything. You can see it in Canva. I use that for logos, right? Side businesses, things like that. You can pretty much see it being incorporated everywhere in banks now. Like, how can I help you? Help me find the, statement of this hotel that charged me too much money, right? It's everywhere. It's absolutely everywhere. So you can definitely see how AI is not going away. Hopefully we'll slow down so we could be smarter as a collective, like as a nation. Um, but I fingers crossed, let's just keep the good energy out there. I hope that that'll happen. But if it doesn't, there are some initiatives that we can do as individuals or as organizations. So, for example, um, AI can be capitalized on in a sense. So, I'll give you an example. How great would it be, Andrew, for you to be able to tell your students, yes, I want you to use Chat GPT. However, I want the sources to be reputable. I want them to be correct references and things like that. So instead of us relying on these big, huge companies, because they're going to do what they have to do, they got the money for it. What if, I'll use Chicago, Harold Washington Library, one of the largest libraries. What if they created their own Chat GPT? Wouldn't you trust that so much more? Like, there's just things that we can do in different ways that we now must think that will transform our jobs. So will jobs go away? Yes and no. They're simply going to be transformed. Just like janitors used to do a whole lot more, and then mops were invented and it took a little less time. And then, now we have, back to Star Trek, we have stuff that can clean itself pretty much. And, Rumba vacuums and things like that. So I would love to see us, um, you and I too, hey, for that matter, but organizations take ownership and really explore the awesome opportunity that we have before it's overregulated to create your own systems. So now you get the say so of the information. Careerists can do the same thing. I mean, talk about teaching your students in a way that is most valuable and will make us most valuable as an organization. We can create our own. And so I want to encourage our students as well. Like, we're talking about this stuff, and if you are concerned about losing your job, that's legit. But we're in a world now that you can use these large language models to be your friend and teach you how to think. That's what it's doing for me. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say, I just got it. But I know how to use the technology now. Prompt engineering is another one that we're talking about, right? That's a whole job in itself, that you can use as a designer or as a researcher. And I want us to really start thinking about those things, because our new world, it's going to be what you think, how you think, and what you can create that never existed before. And
Right,
if you
right.
can get that, you don't have to worry about a job anymore, you know?
No, and I think in UX and product design, we're often describe ourselves as just professional problem solvers, right? I mean, I went to art school. I work in fintech now. I didn't study finance in art school. I didn't. That, believe it or not, we just didn't cover that curriculum. But I value this position, this career as a professional problem solver, and I tell my juniors and my students, to be useful, make yourself useful, right? Get into meetings, get into problem solving. Don't be afraid. And I think that if you have that mentality, as technology progresses, and it has always progressed and will always progress, as long as you kind of have that mantra of staying useful and not being afraid to problem solve and to be an active learner, to self educate. I think as long as we can do that, we have the ability to have AI as a helper, and we don't have to feel fear about AI taking over our jobs. And we do have, companies like Careerist and Tech Ed, and education is all over the internet, and the ability for people to self-educate, whether it be just simply jumping into dev or really any aspect of tech, or like, designing prompts, really, I mean, even using generative AI for marketing campaigns. There's all sorts of stuff that, as a computer generation, we know how to do. We can be useful, and we can jump out there and say, I can help. I understand it, right? I can help you understand it. And that is just kind of overcoming the fear of it, making yourself useful in the AI world, and using it as a tool, right? And not feeling overcome by it, not feeling like it's gonna, it's gonna move us out of the office. I mean, I hope it moves us out of the office. I hope we can all just stay at home and work, and be comfortable with our cats. But I mean, as far as job retainment, um, and another thing about it though is, and I think you were talking about this, with kind of the AI, um, ecosystems, right? Is who's accountable, right? And I think, AI is great, but humans are accountable. And in this society, um, it's important to have someone who's accountable. So if we have open AI, right, everything's great, but then you have, the National Library who's like, okay, well, we have our own generative AI. Like, okay, that's accountability that I can count on. You know, we have a if you hire somebody to put together these prompts for your company, or to create this infrastructure, AI infrastructure, they're not going to blame the AI. They're going to blame the individual, right? So the accountability of humans, right, it's still largely a part of our daily processes, and which is a great thing, because that's a lot of, it, it allows us to keep, responsibility. It allows us to keep the job and move and progress with it. So, I feel like overall, I think we're on a match as far as security with AI. I
Now
do want to
that's
know a
the
little bit.
question. That's a whole nother topic, right? The security of it
Oh,
all.
the security. Okay, well,
Security,
there's
that's a
another one,
whole nother
right?
topic. Talk about, you want a
Yeah.
job, design for those websites, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's so true. I mean, we have data leaks, right? We have, and we have banking data leaks and all sorts of stuff. But now we're plugging in, sensitive business material into Chat GPT, and what does that data leak look like? And a lot of companies are very concerned about that.
I'll
They
tell you what
you
it
know
looks like. It looks like a USPS email with a tracking number that you get in your email, and you don't have USPS. If I get another USPS, FedEx, someone telling me that I got a delivery so I can click on their link, put my information in there so I can get, oh my goodness. So I think that's what's happening. Like all of these breaches because technology is just so overwhelming. And think about it, like think about what you use technology for on a daily basis. Like how many times am I like, hey Siri? Or I'll give you an example. I every so often, maybe once a month, once every 2 months, because I have a lot of kids, and thank God I work in the tech world. I have a cleaners who come to my house. Thank God for it, right? My cleaners don't speak English. They speak Portuguese. Guess what I use to communicate with them? Google Translate, which is a large language model, and now it like goes back and forth and it works great. So I don't know if we really realize how much we're already using the technology indirectly without even realizing it. If it's something from your phone, you're driving, so you're talking to Spotify to tell it what song you want it to play. I mean, we're literally using it on a daily basis. Think about your Facebook. Let's not even get started with that in Instagram, right? So I think when we really start paying attention to how much we're using it and how easy it is for us to use it, that will kind of take some of that heaviness. Because there's a heaviness that kind of comes because it's new and it's like, oh, how do I use it? How do I talk to it? And if you kind of realize that you're doing it already, um, now it's just about what keywords trigger the right response. So I can say, "Hey Siri, go get this water," or I can say, "Hey Siri, go get this cold beverage." Like what kind of triggers? And again, that is the new currency. If you can think, if you can think, the AI is going to do all the heavy lifting for us. So we have to make sure we work out too, because that's the next thing. We're not going to pretty much have to walk
right, right, yeah.
before
It's
it's
gonna
over.
We're gonna be floating in chairs, just eating food out of a bag on a cruise ship that never comes. Like
Right.
I think I've seen that somewhere, and we all know how
It's one
that.
of my favorite movies, Wally.
Yeah, there it is. There it is.
Yes, I
Yeah,
love
it
it.
is
And
really.
there's this movie called Three Problem Body. I'm not trying to endorse anything, but it's a movie on Netflix, and I am not a movie person, but my husband got me looking at it. And it's talking about it's like this alien race, and they have like these Oculus look like a helmet or something, and they go through this virtual reality to save these worlds. But if you get a chance, if you want to like get an idea of like what is Kimetha talking about with these digital twins that NVIDIA has created, that movie does it. It literally, man, I'm like, are they telling us the future or am I just a conspiracy theorist? But basically, they're taking it, putting it in the digital world, and you're able to work out these issues for these different worlds. Um, and that's exactly what the digital twin phenomenon is to me.
Yeah, I think that's really fascinating, and I think that I mean, there's a lot. Again, there's cost, right? The social cost, and people are kind of worried about what does this mean, but it is just another technological gain, and I don't really. I'm kind of like, well, let's just not worry about things till we have to worry about them, which that's why future security and AI is not my job because I have that mentality. But it's I do think that embracing it and that digital surrogacy of having testing out problems and not just algorithmic, but with so many variables. Just and you were talking about, I mean, Earth 2.0. That's insane. I mean, that's just a huge leap, and and that tied in with the fact of if everyone could just take a moment and realize like how much we're tethered to tech right now. I mean, our internet was out yesterday, and I was like, okay, well, we'll just take this time to like, retrace the vacuum, our little Roomba around. I was like, can't do that, right? Because we don't have Wi-Fi. So, it's just like, oh man, like it's just even more than you think of. And I mean, I agree with something that you were saying before. Is kind of like if you just think about how far in we are already, it's not. It doesn't seem like it's like a scary, future of Terminator or anything like that. I think the benefits really are so beneficial. And honestly, like, let's just, if it's convenient, we're just gonna jump on board anyway, right? I mean, let's just be honest about it. That's what, if we've learned anything about ourselves in a post-COVID life, it's just, if you can make my life more comfortable, then I'm probably just will gravitate towards it anyway, and absolutely pay for it. I mean that's also true. Yeah. Um, I think the new Ray Bans are coming out. The Apple with the AI assistant. I think we've all been waiting for Siri and Alexa to join on the AI bandwagon. I'm super excited about that, because I'm like the most annoying IMDb user in the world, and everything I see, I want to look up. So I'm so, even just, it's just small things like that, and we're gonna look back and be like, well, however did we exist without this? Just how did we exist without our phones? How did we exist without the internet? Like, how did I exist without Photoshop?
I mean,
Now we
look,
have,
the kids now are like, "Wait, you had a cord connected to your phone?" I was like, "Oh yeah, my mom can like pick up and hear my conversation." They're
right.
like, "What?" I'm like, "Really? I am not that old, guys. This is crazy."
If you really want to surprise them, tell them how many phone numbers you remembered just off the top of your head.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
It's
mind
amazing
blowing.
though. I
Yeah,
love the world that we live in, and I'll tell you what I'm looking forward to, a podcast when you have your Ray-Bans and I have my little, I don't, isn't it Apple? I don't even know what it's called. I just know I want one. The only, it's an Apple Pen or something pen. The only reason I don't have it is because there's radiation that comes from this stuff, right? And so I am interested to better understand how we're dealing with that. So if you have a pen that's, I mean, your heart's here, you have a pen that's right here. What is that doing to that area? Similarly to like the Apple, the iPods, and I won't go there because all of us have them. But there's a lot of
these
studies. It's
things.
the radiation. I
Yeah.
know, like bust your bubble, right?
Man,
But there's
I'm
like
already
all
waist
these
deep in that
studies.
ocean.
I know, but it's something to think about. That's all I'm saying.
It's
Like we
true. It's
really,
true.
and so
And
for designers that are out there and it's like, "Oh, is this gonna take my job?" You have to think about how huge your job is. Like you're a designer. You make beautiful things and you do research to make sure that users want it. Those beautiful things are going to be there, whether we change it to be part of the digital economy, whether it's part of our reality, our current reality in that economy, whether it's in finance, it doesn't matter. Once they change something, they're going to need someone like you to design it or research it or write content about it. Um, and you're going to have a job for that. So it's, I keep going back to that because I'm thinking like, will it take our jobs? And it's like, yeah, as we know it today, but our job is evolving with the artificial intelligence revolution, aka the fourth industrial revolution is what they're calling it. Um, so we're asking the wrong question. The question is, how can we equip ourselves to ensure that we are the future problem solvers of the nation?
yeah,
That is the question.
that is the question. I love that. How are we equipping ourselves? What are we doing to, I don't want to say stay on top of things, but I mean, we are a content creator. I mean, content generation machine right now, and yeah, I mean, so how are you equipping yourself? I mean, you're in AI every single day, and what would you recommend for people who, and I have students who, I mean, they're just getting into ChatGPT or they're getting into, how do you recommend people kind of get to know this new technology? What are your recommendations?
Yeah, and I thought about this too. So I have I think is a good answer. I recommend a two-fold approach. Think of a folder. Think of a piece of paper because a folder has more than two sides, and a piece of paper has two sides, right? On one side, you have to learn things on your own. That's where YouTube University comes in. That's where Udemy, that's how I pronounce it. Some people say Udemy. I don't even know the name of it, tomato, tomato. Those type of things come into play. But on the other side, you need guidance, in particular instruction to be able to apply what you learned. And that is where organizations like Careerist come into play. Like it's one thing to know how to build something, it's another thing to know how to build it based off of the rules, right? To build it the right way. Like it's one thing to learn the piano, it's another thing to go to school for it. Like both are equally important, but how great would it be to learn the proper way? Boom, and then you get your personality and all those things that you learn. It's a different type of atmosphere. And that's what's worked for me. Like, I am a very colorful personality. At least that's what I choose to say about myself. But there are
I would
also
agree.
parameters. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Also, parameters in the Microsoft world that I have to adhere to. So, understanding what I've learned on my own, YouTube University, etc., and then being an instructor in Careerist, I get to teach our students, and in turn, that literally makes me smarter because I'm in the thick of it, right? And I have to find different ways to communicate it, um, to you guys and to the audience. And then when I get that reciprocation of you understanding or you being able to say, "Okay, Kimetha, so here's an example. Does that make sense?" And you get that right, like that's a twofold approach that I think is absolutely necessary, because it's one thing to know something, it's it's another thing to know it right, or to know it the right way, or multiple ways for that example, or
Yeah,
for
I
that,
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's the the human experience in an AI world. I think at this point, we are, and I think we can just saddle up on that experience. But I agree, and when we're just like learning anything new, but it is, working with students, especially when they're in the foundation of of design or of UX, and they'll come at me with some like questions that I'm like, I've never thought about that before, which I love, which is what I love about being in education and being an instructor is, and especially, they're like, well, how can I use Gen AI to blah, blah, blah. And I was like, man, I don't know, but let's figure it out. Like, let's, we have, we have, an amazing amount of resources at our fingertips. And I think having that human experience, the human value of working to help harness this, and working it as a valuable tool for us is just powerful. It's one of my favorite things about being an educator and working with students is asking those foundation, those questions, and then putting them in different kind of worlds, I guess. Like now, like, oh, how do we use Gen AI to use this? Or before it'd be like, okay, well, how do I use, Quark Express to do this? And that was forever ago, but it's those foundation issues and then having all of this new technology to figure it out. And I think having the human instructor is very helpful. It has that kind of, I don't je ne sais quoi, that human essence of it, that right now is just invaluable when we're working in this AI world. And yeah, and I find it really fascinating to experience that, and also I talk a lot about with my students about like the future of education, and I believe that we are kind of really in and heading more into like a mentee mentor kind of world, where we are we are learning based on just kind of the needs of our students, just like you would, just like product design, right? We're focusing on the needs of our students, and then from that we're like, oh great, let's use that. Like, what do you need? What would we observe as instructors? And then we are working with them and tailoring education to their needs. Like we always, at the end of our instruction videos, like we're always like, let us know what we can do different. And like, we're always changing this, which we are, because things are rapidly changing, and having that in that instruction and allowing it to happen so rapidly, to change education so rapidly, I can't imagine it's too valuable to go anywhere. I think where we have these huge institutions, and universities are so expensive, and curriculum is not up to date, and you have stadium seat rooms where you don't remember everybody, and you can't curtail the instruction to everybody's needs. And then now we have, and I don't mean, I'm not like pushing, whatever, but we have these online opportunities for students who are like, I really need to learn how to do this, or I really want to learn how to do this. And we were able to like specify education so unique. And if I were to say, oh yeah, it could be like, how about this? Like, if you were in university and it's you and 12 other students, and based on your specific needs, we will make the curriculum, for you, that education would have been hyper expensive. But now we're breaking it down, and we're going into this like subsystems of being able to do that with students. And I love it. I think it's advancing so quickly. I think we're learning so much more. And, we would always say, oh, you take it from the classroom to the boardroom. and for like graduate school and stuff like that. But now we're doing it every day because we are so tethered to tech. We're so tethered to content creation. Students are learning learning how to do something in Figma, and they're taking it straight into Instagram and TikTok, and they're talking to other people about it, and it is just growing so rapidly. And it's just an incredible time in tech right now, I think, with the growth of AI, the growth of content creation, and just how rapidly we can create these things is immense. And I'm really thrilled to be part of it. I think, I'm sure that you are as well. It's really an amazing time.
I agree, 1,000%. And I'll tell you what really excites me. Again, kids are awesome because they are I can only speak for myself. They're the better version of me, right? Because you have all those things, and you're like, I'm not going to do that as a parent. I'm not going to do that as a parent. And my kids are more exposed to technology because I work in the world of technology. And so when it comes to like Roblox and Minecraft, because that's my world, my 5-year-old daughter and my 7-year-old son both, my daughter, it's really interesting to me, who'd have known, she's really, really into it to the point that they're creating skins. For those of you who play video games, you know what that is, where they can create their own everything, their own hair, their own facial expressions, their own clothes for their characters, and they can actually transfer it over to their Roblox session. And it's fascinating to me because my son's like coding and stuff, and he has no idea he's doing it. He's just having a good time. And we pay for that as adults, right? In institutions like this, to be able to have a good time and have an atmosphere where we can learn and make mistakes, but we're learning the right things the right way with the instructors that meet our personal style most. And I'm fascinated and very excited to see how AI transforms to be a better teacher for humans. But I think we will always, you're gonna, let me not say you, I will always need somebody who can relate to me on a level that at this point, a large language model or an artificial intelligence model cannot. Like even the Sophia model that has citizenship in the was it UAE? I think I'm saying that correct. Um, which is a whole nother thing, something else that you guys should go Google if you haven't heard about it. There's legit, AI models that are superhuman like, but they're still not human. And humans will always need that human connection. You're going to always want to call customer service and talk to a real person,
Hmm.
right?
Right?
So
Yeah.
we'll always have some of that there. It's really about us now we have to learn to think differently. Simple as that. Everything else will turn the way that it should. Things are going to be similar to the way that they are, but they can also be very different depending on if we can think thoughts that get us to results. And if we can ask this new technology, AKA artificial intelligence, the right questions to get us to our ultimate result, because we don't have to do the manpower anymore. So I'm really, really excited about that. And I'm just excited about how easy it is for at least the kids, my kids, to learn stuff by playing games.
Sure. Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Gamification
it's
of education. And it's incredible. It's incredible. And I love it too. I mean, it is about, you know, it's about being able to ask the right questions now. It's not just about finding answers. It's not just about finding sums. It's being inquisitive and being curious and observing the world and saying, I want to, how do I ask questions? How do I ask more questions? And that way of thinking right now is moving the world, right? What questions are out there that I can ask? And I think that's so important for people to be exercising right now more than ever, to generate just the incredible um, excessive capabilities of AI and tech, right? It's all about the people who are asking the questions. Those are the people that are really moving and shaking things. And the way it is moving, like those stories about your children, like that's an incredible thing for such a young age, to be that inquisitive and to be making like that kind of content and trying to find more. And it really does, like the next generations are just going to be so rapid. It's going to be it's going to be a really incredible thing to witness, and I hope we can all stay up to speed on it. Um, but we'll just do the best we can, right? We'll stay, as educators, as parents and uncles, we'll do the best we can to race the land speeder that is future generations in tech.
Absolutely. And I'll say one more thing because I know we're getting close to the end of this, but I would love in the future to talk about like um, some things that AI is kind of doing for us right now and bringing to us. Another good example is recently I did some work in the neurodivergence world, and I don't necessarily identify with that per se, but I am extremely animated, right? So all probably throughout this conversation, you see me like, I'm doing something with my hands. And that's another thing that I think this technology is even helping me with is some of those things that I'm insecure about, like how animated I'm always like doing something. I can't just keep my hands down. And technology is really helping with that because, say that not for the podcast sake, but say that I'm in a meeting and I'm not comfortable in that meeting. Instead of just turning your camera off, now they have like these caricatures and things like that that can there's a better name for it, but they're like cartoons, if you will, of who you yeah, exactly. There you go. Thank you. Avatars. And I use it quite often for this reason because I don't want to be as distracting because I get so excited. But I appreciate that this technology can also really help in those areas of, you know, um, visual things, whether they're abnormalities, impairments, or just things that are different. Or the fact that, there's colorblind things that are now available due to the technology. There's speaking capabilities. What if you can't type or you had an accident and you're missing a couple fingers? I don't know. You can't type as fast as I can. So now we have technology where you can talk. And I just really, really appreciate what it can do on that side of things. And I'm also really, really looking forward to that as well, of how we can help people become better versions of themselves through technology and in the communication realm and maybe other realms that we haven't fully explored yet. So that's
Yeah,
really exciting for me too.
that is exciting, and it kind of goes full circle to what we were talking about when we first started. Like, what are the daily things? And now that you brought that up, there's just so many things that we use. I don't even think about it anymore, we have filters on our cameras, or we have avatars to help us, if we're feeling insecure, or we don't, for whatever reason, sometimes you just have a heads down day. I
Just
get
don't
it,
want to.
it's
It's a bad
just
hair
sometimes you
day.
just don't want to. And I was like, man, the improvement of mental health on just these little, just these, I mean, not, there's just these simple things that we do every single day. And now they're just kind of coming to mind. I'm curious to know what others are out there, who are thinking about that, or like, man, I use, using Grammarly, those types of simple, for those who are trying to put together a thought, like I'm trying to put together right now. Those things help us every single day to be more secure. I think we're already using this technology as a surrogate to help balance ourselves, right? And I think that alone is pretty incredible. Now that we're having that conversation, so I'm going to think about that over like the next week, and now probably just going to create a list of just these small things that I take for granted every day that are helping me kind of help fulfill, not to say fulfill, but help me feel more confident in the world, things that I'm not so great at, and the tools that I use that to help me progress, through my daily activities. Yeah, it's really fascinating how closely tethered we are. So that'll be my assignment for the week, is to really break the glass and think about how much I rely on this on a daily basis.
I agree completely. We're definitely a reliant species, and that's okay because we created the technology for that reason. So, but we do have to make sure that we stay reading, be dependent, but or let me say, it's my favorite phrase: trust but verify. Trust it, but verify it because it's still technology, and we're learning too. And then I'll say this too. You mentioned this, Andrew, and I really appreciate that the mentor mentee relationship. It makes you think that we should have always been teaching this way. because now you're able to relate and rely and provide information that an individual can retain, that they want to retain, and you're giving it in a way that they better understand it. And we should have always been doing that because I mean, I'm not going to date myself. I just want you guys to think I'm young because I look it. But I was there too, where, catalog and you had to look through to find the book report because you needed to be factual and you didn't have an APA, um, checker on your computer to put that stuff in the right context for you, MLA and all of that stuff. And so it's fascinating how much how much we use it, but it's also very interesting to see how much our education must change in order for our future kids to live in this world. Like my kids, they won't learn cursive writing. They don't have Black History Month at their school. Um, Not that that matters, but maybe it does. But these are things that we have to think about what that means if technology is involved in education. Biases will be introduced or excluded because they can go a good way or a bad way. And then that will mean, as parents, as uncles, as friends, as cousins, that we're going to have to do our due diligence and not just depend on the teacher or the school system anymore because everybody's learning. And that's the beauty of the technology. So you have big companies like Microsoft who use it every day, but then you have, Old Tool Elementary School that doesn't use it at all.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's a
And we
huge
have opportunity
conversation.
there.
The who controls the curriculum, right? And that's gonna, I mean, that's gonna be more and more. I mean, it already is happening right now. We talk about that in our political space as a country, but as we are able to tailor education through AI, it's going to be even more of an ongoing conversation. Um, I'm curious to know how people feel about that and what their anticipations are about that. I think it's going to be a hot spot for sure. Not just trying to figure out what is real, but controlling, but what is taught and what is going to be curated. It's There's so much information. There's so much information, and we're constantly trying to figure out what is real, what is not. What is prioritized, what is not prioritized. Is it biased? It probably is. In one way or another, and even just from you know our own kind of just human, cognitive bias. We just um, we are constantly displacing information that we just don't think is relevant, and that's just being human. On top of which, there are people who are really trying to skirt issues and trying to control the information that's going out there, and it's going to be an ongoing issue. And AI is definitely going to have a lot to do with it, especially ties of education. That's going to be a huge issue,
I'm looking
and worth
forward
one
to
exploring. Pardon?
I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to the change and the disruption and the fact that we really have to sit down and think deeply about the new system that we're going to incorporate for our children. And keep in mind, I mean, we're able to homeschool our kids now. Have we have the time, the time and the money for the lunches and dinners because kids love to eat more when they're at home. Um, but we have so many options, but we have to sit down and think deeply. And I think we can get the answers, but yeah, we gotta turn off the technology to think deeply about it, to incorporate, safety measures and better education measures for our children and better ways for adults like us in the workplace. Um, so I'm really, really looking forward to that. Like, yeah, as long as, the check keeps coming.
Right, right.
Don't
But if
disrupt
ever
that part.
if ever there was a time to really polish up our critical thinking skills, now is the time.
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah.
That's the truth. That is the truth. So I can't wait to talk more about this or even to like hear, what the audience feels about it, especially for our students. We can prepare them. We have the information. We just want, at least for me, I just want to make sure that I can reach people where they are and the way that they understand. And I'm 100% going to use technology for that. Um, yeah. So
Yep.
here's to it.
Cheers. Wonderful. Excellent. No, I'm with you. All right. Well, this has been a good talk, and I think we've got some homework for the week that we're going to come back to. I'm really curious to know. We're gonna now it's just going to be a fountain of information. I'm curious to know if we have any responses as well. So
Yeah.
it's always been a pleasure.
Until next time.
Until next time, Kimetha. All right, have a good one. Thank you.